This is a PowerPoint presentation that Andy and I put together. It's just a little bit of a history of my association with the tuba. And it starts at the very beginning when I first started to learn and brings us up to the current today. So I hope I'm not going to bore you with some of the slides, but I thought it might be a little interesting to see where I started and where I ended up. So this is the title page, Tuba or Not Tuba. And I didn't come up with that, Andy did, so I'll blame him for that.
For sure.
And this is a picture of me. It was taken at Pilgrim Congregational Church when I was playing with the Twin Ports Wind Ensemble. But this goes way back. This is a picture of me playing the tuba with my twin brother, trying to listen to see if I could get the right note. It seemed like it's always been a sour note. But, but he wasn't making any cases. But I started with this is a sousaphone. A sousaphone wraps around your body and has 3 valves on it. And I started in 5th grade. And our house was 301 4th Avenue, which is just 2 blocks towards the east from here. And I started at the Minnehaha School, which is 1 block to the west. So I'm thinking Pastor Epi probably saw my twin brother and I carrying the tuba back and forth on our excursions. The bell would come off, so I would take part of it, and Lyle would take the other part of it. So it wasn't all on me. And that's taken in our living room on 4th Avenue. This is my very first performance. It was while I was at the Minnehaha School. And each year the school would put on what was called an operetta. I don't know if some of the other folks were involved with those operetta productions, but the music teacher put this together, Around the World in Song. And they didn't put by my name tuba, but they just put me in the back of the program as being part of the sound, because you can see all the countries that were visited. At Scene 3, England, the London Bridge was by the first graders. So London was known for its being always foggy. And so they wanted a foghorn. And so they asked me on the tuba to recreate being a foghorn. So I play a high note and a low note. And that was my very first performance. Yeah. You might notice or remember some of the teachers who are listed there. Mrs. Wilson, Miss Wilson, Miss Svard, Miss Beckstrom's, Miss Eck. But then we have a Mrs. Runyon, Miss Severson, Miss Lundblad, Mrs. Moline, Mrs. Warner, Stella Warner. There's a scholarship that's still given out in her name annually at the high school. Miss Shattock, and then a Mr. Bischoff, and a Mr. Peppel. So there was 2 men in the faculty there, and a lot of miss. I don't know if there was a policy of just hiring maiden or teachers who were not married. I don't know if that was a policy or not.
There was a policy at one time in lots of school districts that women had to be unmarried, and if they got married, they had to quit.
Oh, wow. My 5th grade teacher, this is when I played, was Mrs. Warner, and George Jansen was the speaker. And I don't know how he got picked to be the speaker, because usually he was picked on by Mrs. Warner. I don't know. Maybe just to make up some of those. So the next concert I kept a program of was in 1964. It was directed by Paul Gaucher and John Downs. This was at the high school. It was spring concert in 1964. And these are some of the band members. I played the tuba with Gary Nyland. Gary Nyland was the son of longtime members here, Helen Nyland. Some of you may remember her. Some of the other, let's see, Ginny Costley is Ginny Young now. She's a member here. There's a few others that are still around. The trombone is Gary Nelson. That was Greg Nelson's brother. And Marlene Hansen, Marlene and Flockman now. So I'm just wondering if you see Marlene at church, if you would just come up to her and ask her, Marlene, I didn't know you played the drums. I said, but this was a senior high band, and then we had a junior high band. Because I was in ninth grade, I was able to play with the senior high band. And then over here, we had 4 tuba players in the junior high, and one of them was Lee Scotland, and it's Dennis's brother-in-law, Jan Scotland's brother. What I remember about Lee is that we were in either 7th or 8th grade at the high school, and we were being taught by Brad Johnson. Brad is the husband of Kay Johnson, who was an organist here for many years. Yep. And I sat right next to Lee, and we would talk every once in a while. And Lee said to me one morning, "Oh, I never brushed my teeth before coming to school, just out of the blue." So guess what profession he got into after college? He became a dentist. Another memory I had of being in Brad Johnson's class is that we were to do pantomimes up in front of the class. And I remember it came my turn, and I remembered watching the Red Skelton show. I don't know if many of you remember Red Skelton was on TV quite a bit, quite a popular comedian. But the skit I did was of a woman putting on a girdle. and I don't know why I came up with that, but the class really was in stitches. This is the first uniform I had in band. It was in 9th grade when we were just starting to play with the marching band for football games. And this is marching down in front of the high school, the old high school on 4th Avenue. And I played the sousaphone, and this is a fiberglass sousaphone. And I don't know how I came up with the idea, but I wanted to have a tongue coming out of the bell with 2 eyes. So my mom made that out of felt, and I was recognizable whenever we were marching every parade. The only time that I was asked to take that off was John Downs asked me at a Veterans Memorial program if I wouldn't mind taking it off. I said, sure, no problem at all.
Who's the cheerleaders?
The Majorettes.
Majorettes.
I think this is Bussa Carlstrom now.
Carlstrom.
Used to be Hoganson? No.
Yeah.
Yeah. And this, I think, is Peggy Lynn. Peggy Simonson. Yeah. And I can't recognize the other one. Everett, you should know.
Oh, yeah.
Could be near the cabin in the back.
Could be. And this is just us getting on a band bus. There were times where we would exchange concerts with Silver Bay. So we'd get on the school bus and go up there and play a concert, and they, on a different day, would come down and play a concert with us here in Two Harbors. But I think the reason I kept this picture is you look at the way we dressed in those days, the scarves on the ladies, and this little girl here, I think, is my wife, Colleen. And it's really quite ironic. I remember being in the old band room in the old school. You had to go through what they called a tunnel or to get there. But I was down in the band room up on the higher riser practicing the tuba, and it was an empty room. And I can remember this little girl walking into the band room carrying a saxophone case. And I, just looked at her and, yeah, nice young lady. Oh, I never talked to her, never said a word to her, but she ended up being my wife.
Somebody told.
Yes. Now, I was inspired to play an instrument because I had two older brothers that played instruments. My older brother, Warren, played the tuba also. And here he is marching in the parade, and the background is the church. And, the church hasn't changed that much over the years. The trim of the windows has changed, but that's about all. And then we had the big maple tree in the yard of the parsonage. This is a city band picture taken on the courthouse steps in the mid-1950s. And the reason that this one is this is my other brother, Don, who played the trombone. And some of these people are still living. Dick Helgeson was president of the band for many years and did just a wonderful, outstanding job. This is Edgar Baseman. He was the band director in Silver Bay. And this is Lyle Peters. He's an architect in Duluth, I think semi-retired. And then we have the percussion group, which is an older group even when I was playing a few years later. That's Cully Bankson, Victor Starloff, and I think is a relative of Jan Scotland's, Randy Holmstrom. I think this might be, I think his name was Swindlehurst. He worked in Silver Bay, but I'm not sure. Bob, yeah. And then Jim Nealon and Carl Dolan. Carl Dolan was a trumpet player who played with John Philip Sousa's band at one time. And then Paul Gaucher, the band director. And back here is a fellow you may know about, and John knows a lot more about him than I do, John Carr. But he is Veikko Engelin. And Veikko was the one who immigrated from Finland and was encouraged by his mother to play two instruments, the flute and the tuba. And because of that, he was hired by the railroad. He started up playing the tuba, but then went to playing the flute. He did not miss a concert, a rehearsal, or a parade in 54 years. Quite a record. These two tuba players, this one is Pete Naismith, and this is Ronald Grunwald. We're back to the program that I had in 1964. How many people know Mace Maher, or Mike Maher? You can see here his name. He played the cello. So next time you see him, ask him, tell him, I never knew you played the cello. But you notice that the tuba player I was all by myself in the senior group, and then all by myself in the junior orchestra. So I played in all four ensembles: the senior high band, the junior high band, senior high orchestra, junior high orchestra. So I was very, very busy. But it was fun. And then besides that, I had to help with the riser and not only keeping track of my tuba and everything else, but setting up all the chairs. This is the next concert. This was in 1965. Some of the same players. The tuba players in the junior high band, I think your name had to start with a B in order to be in that group. And, in the senior high band, Bob Johnson played with me, and Bob just passed away this last year. I don't know if you remember the calendars that used to be distributed. It showed the band and This was Gary Nyland again. This was me. I was quite a bit shorter than Gary. Both Gary and I were basketball players, but I caught up to Gary a little bit later on in life. And here's the orchestra, and me playing the tuba. And this young fellow here, Daryl knows very well. That's Don Moen playing the violin. Don Moen, who is in the recording industry.
Yep.
Yep.
He's got 5 million CDs produced of his music.
Yep.
Right now.
Yep. And he came out of Two Harbors High School.
Yep.
And this is Gary Nelson again, Greg's brother. Oh, I want to go back. Look at all these places of business now. How many are still active? The Commercial State Bank is now the Lake Bank. Gopher State Telephone Company is out of business. Johnson Funeral Home is out of business. Carlstrom Furniture is no longer here. Falk's Drug Store is gone. First National Bank is Wells Fargo now. Ray's Shoe Center, Helgeson's, Bob's Distributing, Chronicle's still here. Co-op Association is gone, so not many of them left. Emmer, your wife worked for the co-op, didn't she? Yeah. This is my report card. That's how they reported those in those days.
The only one you had all A's, right?
That's the only one I had all A's in, so I had to show that one. This is a program from a football game at the campus in Minneapolis at the old Memorial Stadium. And you see at the bottom it says "Welcome High School Bands," and this was an annual event for the high school band. It seemed like we would play a Friday night football game here at home, and after the game we would be able to go to our homes to rest up a little bit. Then at 2 o'clock in the morning we would get up to load the buses to go to Minneapolis to take part in this program. We would stop at the old Toby's and Hinckley for a break and then arrive in Minneapolis for an early morning rehearsal that was rehearsed in the Williams Arena, indoors in the basketball arena. And then there was a whole mass bands from all over the state that we would march around the track in Memorial Stadium and then go up into the bleachers. And then at halftime we would play a concert, and there was thousands of kids involved. After our performance, we would go to the state fairgrounds, and there we would stay in the 4-H building where they had big rooms full of bunk beds, and we would spend the night there and return home on Sunday. This is the marching band again. This drum major was the first drum major Two Harbors High School had. His name was Mike Carlson, the son of Arnold Carlson.
Oh, yeah.
And he did a great job for 2 years. He started as a junior and continued while he was a senior. And this is a picture of the pep band that we would play for basketball games and hockey games. And I don't know, John doesn't look too happy there, but he was usually a pretty happy guy. And this fellow here again is Don Moen. He also played the trombone, not only the violin, but the trombone. Here? No, that is Sandy Jordan, Sandy Staples Jordan. This is Mary Lou Hadeen. Clyde Hadeen just passed away today. John Downs, I asked him to sign my annual, and that's John with, he was now the senior band director, and Jim Bursch became the junior high band director. But he said to Larry Saur, "Nicer than whom they do not make 'em, and what it makes is nicer is the way he wails on sousaphone. Next year, let's make it tuba." So up until that time, we only had sousaphones. We didn't have any upright tubas. On this page is, I think, a princess from Homecoming. Her name was Carlene Peterson from Knife River. And she, after high school, married Mike Surdich, who was the UMD hockey coach. And unfortunately, she was killed in a car collision. Here's Jim Bursch and John Downs. And here they are playing their instruments. Jim was the trumpet player and John the trombone player. And I remember, Daryl, playing with both of these fellows on my tuba during a Christmas concert with your choir. There was some fanfare that we played together during one of your concerts. This is me playing one of those fiberglass tubas. This is the pep band in the high school, waiting to get up to the balcony of the high school gym. And this is me, and this is Bob Naslin. Bob was a great trumpet player and went on to teach and is also now a member of the Lake Wobegon Brass. So he's kept with it all the way through. This is Dennis Moen, and this is David Benna Johnson. And this is his future wife, Mary Lou Hadeen. And back here again, peeking around, Don Moen. This is Gary Nelson, Bill Lind, Dennis Wagner, Sally Hadeen, Bill Furin. That's about all I can recognize. This picture I threw in there, it doesn't have any really thing to do with me, but I think it's a kind of a Norman Rockwell type of picture. This is the old German band, and they're playing for the annual pancake supper that was held during Winter Frolic in those days. And this is Paul Gaucher, Carl Dolan, Jim Nealon, Dick Helgeson, and Bob Stevens, Victor Starloff, Randy Holmstrom, and that's my older brother Warren playing with them. But it just, it has all these little things on the old camera, the old hats. And I think this young lady right here is Alice Klug, but I'm not sure. I'm going to have to ask her sometime when I see her. But I did later on play with the German band, and they were a lot of fun. We played a lot of polkas and schottisches and marches, and just a great time.
Must have been there when Mike Holbeck was playing that too.
Well, the reason I played is because I subbed for Mike Holbeck. He got into the service, and so they needed somebody, and I was the next on the list. This is me in my city band uniform. First time I played with the city band. That was right after 9th grade. The old uniforms. This is Paul Gaucher, the director. Another picture of him. And just before his retirement, they had a community-wide event to honor him, and over 1,000 people appeared in the gym. It was I remember being there. It was a great, great evening. Now this is the Traverse City Band on parade at the Aquatennial in Minneapolis. And usually it was very hot, but this is Parade Stadium. And this is the year that we were the Open Grand Championship Band. And this is me marching with the group. You can see we're all in step. I think we did a great job. Not many people in the audience at that time, but Another thing to notice is we all had long sleeve shirts. We didn't wear our coats because of the heat. Now the next picture is a little bit, it's the same location, but just a little bit different. Look at all the people who showed up for that parade. 1 year later. And that's the year we went with the fiberglass tubas. Now you can see them playing the white sousaphone. And this is another picture of the Aquatennial. It's Gary Nelson there, John Downs, and that's me way back there. This is when we celebrated 100 years of the city band. That was in 1997. I was still playing an older tuba at that time. This is Kevin Braley, our current church president. That was Sam Black, who played organ for us here for a few years. Janet McDonald, Paul Eglin, and Bruce Hogger also played tuba. But the nicest thing about this group was that I was able to play with my daughter. My daughter Amy played the clarinet, and we played together in the city band at the same time. And this is an album that was put together after we won the Open Championship, and we played a few songs, mostly marches. You know, that was a lot of fun. That was recorded in the high school auditorium. I have to give Andy a little plug here. This is a piece of art that Andy does with his coffee art. And the original of this is larger. He has some prints, but the original is in Naperville, Illinois, hanging in Judge Sandvik's oldest son, Andrew Sandvik's home. This is a little group that we played when the trains came into Two Harbors. We go down and meet the trains and play a little Dixieland or polkas or that type of thing. Well, this is a picture of my bell on my tuba that made the newspaper. It was July 19th, 2004, and the the Duluth newspaper. And they had a nice article about the history of the city band. The next one is another picture of me playing the tuba, and this is the same year, August, in the Minneapolis paper. So I think Minneapolis picked up on the Duluth paper, and they wanted to make their own article about it. So. And this is the hat that we had for 100 years. That 100 is, first of all, the head majorette's baton, and then the 2 zeros are sousaphone bells, making 100. This is the city band marching in the Heritage Days Parade. It's right in front of the old Scandinavian store. And this is me waving to my wife's nephew, Nick Johnson. And there, I'm playing on First Avenue. You can see a reflection in the bell. This is the Human Development Center, and it was still under construction, so they had a porta potty, so you can see that in the bell too. This is me just playing in the band shell before it was all painted maroon. And this is my first grandchild, Jack Bedine, coming out of the bell of my tuba at the park. And I'm not sure, Andy, who this is. If this is Annika, my second grandchild, or my third grandchild, Lucy.
That's Annika.
Is Annika? Okay. That's Andy's daughter. And the next one for sure is Annika. She's about 1 year old then. Annika is the one who sang the Norwegian song at our 125th anniversary. Now this is the tuba section up to about 2 years ago. This is Brian Johnson, who's playing a heliacone. Is that what it is, John? Helicon. It's a different type of tuba where the bell just comes straight out, doesn't come forward. And this is Paul Eglin. This is Vaco Eglin's son. Brian played with me in high school and moved away, and he's retired from 3M and lives in Woodbury, but he comes up and he has a cabin at Bass Lake and plays with us during the summer months now. And it's great to have him back. And the tuba fanatic. If you want to know anything about tuba, ask Brian. And he's been so good to teach me more about my tuba. And then Paul Eglin. Paul played his last concert with us about 1.5 years ago in August. And he was dealing with cancer, but he still wanted to finish out the season. So friends and family helped him get his tuba up on stage, got his music up on stage, and he made it through the concert just fine. And it wasn't a month later when he passed away. And so quite a legacy for the England family, where his father was in it for 54 years, and then Paul came back to play also. He's a retired Methodist minister and was just a great guy. Always telling a joke. It was funny. Now this is a picture taken in August of this year at our 125th anniversary. You can see the reflection in the bell of the windows in the congregation. This is, I think, Al Anderson sitting. He's waiting for his turn to play with the brass group. This is our brass group. It's called the Two Harbors City Band Brass Quintet. We have Scott Gisha on trumpet, Sue Anderson. She's played with the city band for over 50 years. Myself, Heidi Johnson Selvog. She is a former pastor Glenn Johnson's daughter, and Al Anderson. And we've just recently put this together, and it's been a lot of fun to play with these folks. And this is when Superior Song Choir was marching in. This is Kathy Lundell, and followed by others. We're coming into Holy, Holy, Holy. This is my very first tuba that I bought. And how this came to be is that I played with the city band through about the early 70s, and then I got married and I was raising 3 kids and just didn't find it possible to play with the city band for quite a while. And when we were celebrating the church's 100th anniversary, Cheryl Rogie, Dave Rogie's wife, remembered that I played tuba in high school, and they were putting together a brass group, hopefully to play for the centennial. And I said, well, I'd be willing to play, but I don't have a tuba. Let me check around. So I did check with Mike Holbeck, and he said, yeah, I've got a tuba laying in the basement that I'm not using. You're welcome to use it. And so I said, okay, I'll come over and get it. And so I got it, and it came with a good guitar strap. So I still have that strap with it. And it sounded good. Didn't look too good, but it sounded good. And so I did play with that group in 1989, and I've been playing ever since. And I'm really glad that Cheryl remembered that I could play and got back into it. Later on, Mike Holbeck said, well, I've got something, I'm thinking of buying a better tuba. Would you buy my old tuba for what I paid for it if I get this other one? I said, sure. So I paid $400 for this old tuba. And I still have it. I have it hanging in the basement wall, and my grandson, Jack, who is now 6 years old, whenever he runs by it in the basement, he says, that's my tuba. He wants to play. Now, after graduating from high school, I played 1 year at the main campus in Minneapolis. And I played in symphony band too, where Mr. Frederick Nylene was a conductor, and I think he was a good friend of John Downs because John Downs graduated from that same music program. And Fred Nylene directed there for a few years, but then he went on to Luther College and directed the bands there for over 30 years. Here I am listed in the program, and you can see the participants from all over the state. It was a lot of fun. And this fellow, Thomas Olson from Aiken, because I sat next to him in band, became a very good friend, close friend. He happened to live in the same dormitory, Frontier Hall, as I did, just down the hall, and so we did a lot of things together. Another coincidence is that Fred Nylene, he also had a relative in Two Harbors later on. Right next door to our house on 4th Avenue, across the street or alleyway, Leroy Ballou lived for many years. And when he passed away, the house went to the family. They didn't have any children, but I think a niece was, Penny Milky. She lives there now. So she's a sister of Fred Nylene, another connection. So after 1 year of having too much fun at the main campus, I transferred to UMD and got to play in the bands there. The band director there was James Murphy. He was of Irish descent, and he was brutal. He would throw his baton. Luckily, I was in the back row. But I played tuba here, but they spelled my name wrong. Larry Saver. I try to live up to that. But I had the honor of playing with Richard Carlson, who was a faculty member there, so we had a good tuba section. Now, Richard Carlson will appear in some future slides. He's still playing. And the other person from Two Harbors who played was Robert Naslin. And that's where he got his music education in order to go on and teach music. This is another brass quintet I played with. We called ourselves a Harbor Brass 2. Scott Giesche from Two Harbors, Sue Anderson from Two Harbors, and Janine Dahlquist from Duluth, and Randy Skadsberg from Duluth. And we would play at Christmas time in the Miller Hill Mall. So here we are ready to play now our Christmas tunes, and we played in front of Sears. We didn't have a red kettle out in front of us, but we played anyway. So while we were playing together, we'd play in many churches around the area, mostly churches that are the members we were members of. And so I don't know, this was probably after Pastor Reppy's time here, but if you miss me on a Sunday, you probably didn't know I was playing at another church. But was that a good excuse? Yeah, okay. But here, Alice Birch was the organist at that time, and she wanted us to play this, How Can I Keep From Singing? So she bought that music for us, and we played along with her on the organ. Alice did a lot for our congregation along the lines of organizing music. This is another one. Now, this is a church where Randy Skadsberg, our trombone player, was a member. It's at the Lutheran Church of the Holy Trinity. It's in the west end of Duluth. We're being thanked for playing. And again, my name is close, but not totally correct. And we played across the street at Emmanuel Lutheran a few times. That was Scott Geisha's church. This was at Christmas time. And this is at United Church. We didn't have a member of our group, but we were asked to play there anyway. This is where they're thanking us for being there. This is back here at Bethlehem. This is a Christmas Eve service. And this is a little group I put together. Gary Nelson again, that's Greg's brother. And Gary's wife, Claire, she plays the French horn. Jenna Udenberg, the trumpet, and myself on tuba. We would play during the service, but we'd also play in the entryway. We'd play some Christmas carols while people were coming into the church. This is Gloria Day Lutheran on 3rd Street in Duluth. Janine Dahlquist, our second trumpet player, was a member there. And the Concordia Lutheran Church up on Woodland Avenue. You see part of the program here. We played the prelude. This is back in the West End at Randy's church. And we played at Knife River Lutheran Church when they had their celebration of music in the late fall, early winter. This is our group over here. That was a lot of fun to play. There was quite a variety of music there. Back at West End, Duluth. And this is Castle Danger, Our Savior's Lutheran Church up there. And they said that we have a special treat today as Larry Saur is here with the Harbor Brass too. And he thanked us for coming to share our talents. We did have shirts, as you noticed, we were all the same when we were playing in the mall, and on our shirts had the logo Harbor Brass too, and then plays well with others was our This is back at Gloria Day Lutheran Church. This was an installation. Peter Strumman was the bishop at that time, so they were installing a new pastor there. Lutheran Church of the Good Shepherd. This is a church in the East End, and this is when I was playing with another brass quintet. It's called Wind Chill. And that we played up at Glen Avon Presbyterian Church. And this is a group that I played in. It's Sue Anderson plays the French horn. She's from Two Harbors. And we had a percussion, trumpet players, euphonium. This is Richard Carlson again. If you remember, he played the tuba with me at UMD. A trumpet player. And we had a bagpiper play with us. And it's really nice when you have a bagpiper playing with your group because you can play as loud as you want. That was a lot of fun. And we played for a Habitat for Humanity event up in Concordia Lutheran Church in Duluth. And a hymn sing at Gloria Day Lutheran. Now, this choir or piano director is Dr. Stanley Bold. He's the head choir person at UMD. And this is a thank you note. It's from Rachel and Scott. Scott Geisha was our trumpet player, but it says, just want to thank you so much for being part of our wedding and adding that nice personal touch of brass for our special day, even if there is Japanese music. Scott we rehearsed some Canadian brass music, and one of the pieces was Japanese, and they liked it. And this is Rachel Wadeen and Scott Geisha, and they met while they were playing with the Two Harbors City Band. Scott is from northern Michigan, the Upper Peninsula, and came to Silver Bay and commuted and played with us down to Harbors, and that's how he met his future wife, Rachel. And now they have 2 children, and I think it's their goal that their children play with the Two Harbors City Band. This is with the Windshield Brass again. I played every Thanksgiving at a community-wide Thanksgiving service in the East End. All the churches got together, and their choirs got together, and they asked us to play also. There's a list of the choirs. French River Lutheran even brought people down to be involved. Another Thanksgiving service. This is at that service. This name, Shark Kashida. Shark was his nickname, but he was just a great trumpet player. He played with I think the Cincinnati Symphony Orchestra, and it was so nice to have him being part of that group. And this is January. This is a wind chill concert that we put on at the Saint Scholastica Chapel. It had been a tradition. This is an ongoing tradition before I got involved with the Windshield Brass, that they would go up and play a concert. And before the concert, we would go up and we'd have supper with the nuns. And each table had one nun at least to visit with members of our group. So that was a great experience, and we got to know one of the nuns very well. And I remember at the end of the concert, we talked to her again, and she wanted to hold our hands and say a special prayer for a safe travel home. So we made it home safe and sound. This is Music of Grace. This is an Advent celebration that was held at Pastor Phil Berga's church. After he recently had left our church, he went to this church. I was hoping to see him at the concert, but I wasn't able to run into him. I also played with the Twin Ports Wind Ensemble. John Carr plays with me on that. This was one of the first concerts I played with them. It's south of the border, and they had this fellow, a guest conductor from Brazil. And so that was a lot of fun. They play a lot of challenging music. And this is the tuba section. This David Rowlandson was a university student, but he was our real section leader. He played the tuba very, very well. This is another program of the Twin Ports Wind Group. This is the tuba section for that concert. Pat Nelson was also a music major at UMD, so he did very, very well. And then this Tom, retired social worker, he and his wife played in the group. Tom is from Fort Wing, Wisconsin. They have a bed and breakfast over there, so they commuted a long distance in order to play with us. And that's me with Mark Whitlock, the director of the Twin Ports Wind Ensemble, taking that Pilgrim Congregational Church where a few concerts are played by this group. And also had an opportunity to play with the Duluth Superior Symphony Orchestra. They asked us to come down and play a little bit of a fanfare. So that was a lot of fun. You can see Sue Anderson played with the group, played the trumpet, and this is Jenna Udenberg. They left off the G of her last name. She also played. And now we're getting to Singing Into Spring. This is the first concert I played with Daryl Johnson's group, Superior Sound. This is, when Daryl asked me to play, I said, well, I don't know how it's going to go, and I just want to start out slow, maybe 1 or 2 songs for a concert. So I only played 2 for this one, and then again down here. And after that concert, it's been pretty much every song, and I really enjoy it. It's just a lot of fun. Jerry puts up with me too. Yeah. Now, ask me about life in the pits. This is a T-shirt. This is a T-shirt that we wore while being in a pit orchestra for a musical production. The first one I played on was South Pacific. This was here in Two Harbors. It was, I think, a high school production. And played tuba there. Kevin Braley was on trombone. Dave Hoverson, the director. Sam Black. A few of the names you might recognize. Then I played in the musical Annie. And that's where I first got that shirt. Asked me about life in the pits. And Annie was just a wonderful production. It was a lot of fun to play. The last one, well, this is the band members. We commuted up to Silver Bay probably 3 times a week to rehearse. The Fiddler on the Roof, that was the most recent production here. And that George Starkovich did just a fantastic job. Here I am. And Heidi and Ann West, that's Dave Howerson's wife. Al Anderson and John Carr played the clarinet. Here we are at the Superior Sound concert, the last one. I used to sit over here, but now I'm over here. And closer to the piano, so I can get a better beat that way. And the brass quintet playing during the Superior Sound concert. And this is one of my goals in life was to play tuba. This is a tuba player playing in the German pavilion at Epcot. So whenever we went to Epcot, we'd always try and make it to that little trio. They have an accordion player and a guitar player and a tuba player. And the tuba player is just excellent. So that's about it. That's tuba thing, little the kids have given me in this miniature tuba. And that's it.